Welcome back to When Bad Things Happen to Good People, a podcast about censorship and the arts. My name is Todd Sullivan. Over there is my droog, Oren Barter.
I'm a real Malchik, I tell you.
And today, my brothers, we are beginning our look at A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess.
You know what? I think in lieu of our theme song, we should just do this Skype calling music. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh man, that music drives me nuts. I told you,
yeah,
it's slightly out of time. It's slightly out of time.
Just enough to piss you off.
Right? Yeah. And I think most people would notice it because you've got to have like some kind of like, I think, a musical rhythm background to catch that. But it's
Mr. Humble over here.
Well, I'm not saying I'm a fantastic musician, but like, no, I did take lessons. I was a drummer for like 3 years, and you know, I understand 4/4 time, and that's like it's like 4.24 times what it would be. Happy New Year, Oren! It's 2021.
It is, yes, and what a year it's been. Looking forward to 2022.
Yeah. So here we are, first episode of 2021, episode 17. We've just finished watching an attempted insurrection in the United States, so that made a lot of fun this week.
I don't know if I would call that an attempted insurrection. That was.
Well, I believe that's close to what's going to be on the articles of impeachment they're drawing up against Trump at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Not that
it was definitely treason.
Yeah. Not that this is a political podcast usually. Although I did see, interestingly, on Twitter...
What did you viddy?
What did I viddy? Yeah. On Twitter, just in the last couple of days, someone was talking about the Turner Diaries, and how some of the assault on the Capitol there was very similar to stuff that occurred in the Turner Diaries. And it's interesting because that is a book banned in Canada that we have talked about covering on this podcast. And maybe given all of that brouhaha, it might be worth considering adding, putting it up next on our reading list. But we'll see. We got this book to cover first.
Yes, we do. And the movie.
And the movie, yeah, both of which have been banned for different reasons by different people. I was going to ask you if you had made any New Year's resolutions at all for 2021. And then I was also going to mention that I've decided I don't like the term New Year's resolution, and instead I'm going with New Year's goal, because I think resolution, like it turns it into you either succeed or you fail, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm going to lose weight, and then you don't, and you're like, fuck, I failed my resolution. But if it's a goal, it's more like I'm going to try to do this,
right?
And even like
my New Year's attempt.
My New Year's attempt.
My New Year's attempt.
Yeah. Because mine, I decided, is I'm going to try to improve my my engagement with Twitter. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, but I don't do a lot of like posting my own stuff. If I post anything, it's usually retweeting something else that I've seen that I think is funny or profound or whatever. But I'm going to try to increase the amount of my own unique content going up on Twitter. That's my New Year's attempt. Do you have?
Well, there's a lot more room for content on Twitter these days.
That's true. That's true. I don't know if I want to fill that particular void. I think that void is best left empty.
I think so.
But yeah, there are certainly some fewer voices. Fewer very loud, obnoxious voices.
Okay, so I guess my New Year's attempt, since I started a new job that is less labor intensive, I've been getting a little out of shape.
Fair enough, yeah.
And so my New Year's attempt is to mitigate the lack of physical labor with a little bit of physical exercise. So
Good idea. I should probably do that too, but I'm not going to make that one official. Mine's all about Twitter.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I feel that one's like achievable. Getting outside is maybe get some exercises is maybe achievable for me. We'll see. It's early.
Yeah. We got a whole year.
We got a whole year.
Yeah.
And it's...
New Year's resolutions or attempts or whatever we're calling them are great for procrastinators. It's like, I've got a whole year.
Exactly. It'll be like December 31st. It's like, I went for a walk today. I finally did it. I got my exercise.
Attempt succeeds. I can't talk. Succeeded. It's a simple...
Man.
I'm so
too
tired.
early for you to be failing to talk on a project where all we do for an hour is talk, so...
Yeah, but... Also, work.
Yeah,
it's hard on the brain.
It is hard on the brain. And so is this book. Let's talk about this book.
This book is very hard on the brain.
Let me give you a little bit of background here from Wikipedia. A Clockwork Orange is a dystopian satirical black comedy novel by English writer Anthony Burgess, published in 1962. It is set in a near-future society that has a youth subculture of extreme violence. The teenage protagonist, Alex, narrates his violent exploits and his experiences with state authorities intent on reforming him. The book is partially written, by partially, I mean probably 75%, in a Russian-influenced language called Nadsat, which takes its name from the Russian suffix that is equivalent to teen in English. The book apparently was only written in about 3 weeks, and actually Burgess is kind of not a fan of it. He wrote it really quickly. He wrote it for money, and it's become, I think in part because of Stanley Kubrick's film adaptation, it's become kind of this hugely iconic book, and it kind of pisses him off that this is what he's known for. He thinks most of his books are better, and is incredibly frustrated that this is basically the thing he'll be known for.
Poor bastard.
In 2005, it was included on Time Magazine's list of the 100 best English language novels written since 1923. Don't know why they started with 1923. That seems pretty arbitrary.
They were probably going to do like 1925, and they're like, but what about this book? It's like 2 years. Right. If we go another 2 years, we can throw this book on the list.
Yeah. Why not go with 1900 though? Did they not have a printing press in 1900?
I don't know. Maybe there was like no good ones between 1900 and 1923. I'm not a literary expert, but that sounds right to me.
That's true.
There's probably nothing
I'll have
good.
to later Google were there ever any good books published in 1900. So let's talk about where it's been banned. Apparently, it's only really been banned since the film came out, which again I think connects to the idea that it was Kubrick's film that really brought attention to the book. Mm-hmm. In 1976, A Clockwork Orange was removed from an Aurora, Colorado high school because of objectionable language. A year later, in 1977, it was removed from high school classrooms in Westport, Massachusetts, over similar concerns with objectionable language. In 1982, it was removed from 2 Anniston, Alabama libraries, later to be reinstated on a restricted basis. Also in 1973, a bookseller was arrested for selling the novel. The charges were later dropped. However, each of these instances came after the release of Stanley Kubrick's popular 1971 film adaptation, itself the subject of much controversy. Mm-hmm. And on the list of most challenged books from 2010 to 2019, it placed 80th. So this is lower than The Handmaid's Tale and substantially lower than I Am Jazz.
That is ridiculous because this is, I feel like, a much more bannable book than I Am Jazz and A Handmaid's Tale. Like just the stuff that,
certainly compared to I Am Jazz. I think and I don't know if we're reading the same edition of the book. Did you get do you have an edition that's got a foreword by Anthony Burgess talking about the book?
I got a foreword by, I don't know, some guy. Probably
Anthony. It's the guy who wrote it?
Yeah, probably. I didn't read the foreword. I was like, I downloaded the free trial version. I was like, I'll get a few pages in before I purchased it. And I'm scrolling. It's like forward. Okay, I'd love to get read a couple pages of chapter 1. And I never got to chapter 1. I had to buy it before I could even get there. So.
No. So in the foreword, he does talk about how I think it was either in the foreword or it was in a different place that I read this about it, but The idea was that in using this made up language, it was a way of like softening some of what's going on in the book. Because it puts it behind this extra layer of, I don't know, unreality, like hearing these things being described in these newfangled words lessens the impact of the actions going on. And I do
it kind of separates yourself from the actions in the book, right? Yeah, like it separates, like you said, it just doesn't seem as real. This isn't something that would happen in your community or anything like that, right? Like these aren't the words that people use in everyday speech.
I mean, it does. I do think it does something to lessen the. This is a point, and I will get to it pretty quick. There's a point in one of the early chapters where Alex and his droogs encounter another sort of group of young hooligans who are about to rape. Or have just finished raping, either or a fucking 10-year-old girl. And like I feel like that shouldn't even be a sentence that I say in regards to a book, that a 10-year-old girl is about to be raped by a group of probably 15-year-olds, which we find out Alex is at the end of part 1. But in a way, it does. When I read that passage, I almost had to go back and go, wait, what did I just read? Because of the way the language was, that it did kind of bury the impact of what was going on a little bit.
Yeah, this book, especially up to this point, has covered some really dark shit.
But before we get into talking about the contents of the book, I wanted to talk a little bit about this language and go over some of the words that came up. I wanted to have a longer list. I do not have a longer list, so maybe I'll do more next time. And sort of, because I think there are versions of this book that actually have a glossary now at the end where you can look up what the words mean. Okay. There is an online glossaries as well that you can go to look up what the words mean. I have not, so it's all been a matter of trying to use context clues to kind of figure out what the words mean in kind of the same way that The Handmaid's Tale did with a lot of their words, except The Handmaid's Tale, it was only like maybe 1% of the words were new. And in this book, it's like 30 or 40% of the words are things that I've never seen before. So it's a lot harder to find those context clues. So my list of I'm calling this portion of the podcast, "What the fuck did he say?" Tell me, sir, what is a droog?
A droog is a dude. It is a friend. It is a fellow gang member. Yes.
What is a Gulliver?
Gulliver is a head.
Yes.
I got confused because also Litzo is kind of a head, but I think Litzo might be lips.
Okay, I thought Litzo, might be face as well.
Yeah.
But lips make sense too. I remember Gulliver was one I struggled with when I watched the movie, and it seemed like it could be stomach or it could be head, and then I finally... it was confusing because, especially in the movie, I think he only refers to Gulliver when he's at home. He stayed home supposedly because he was sick with the pain in his Gulliver.
I got one for you. Viddied.
Yeah, viddied. That's looked at.
Yes, and that makes sense. Like I kind of thought maybe that was like video. When was this book written?
Exactly. 1963, 1960 something.
Oh, well, they had videos then. All right.
Did they? Oh, yeah. 1962.
They had movies. They had theaters.
Oh yeah, they had the concept of How about I had videoed on my list as well. Gloopy.
Gloopy. I don't think I have that one on my list. What is Gloopy? My old brother.
I wanted to ask you about Gloopy because this is one that I have not figured out yet.
Okay, do you have it in context?
No.
Oh. I don't think I have Gloopy on here. We'll have to add that to the next podcast.
Yeah. How about hopefully with another like 50 or 60 pages I'll figure out what Gloopy means. How about Slooshy?
Slooshy. Okay, I did have Slooshy. Slooshied her clank a plate in the gas oven. So I'm thinking heard.
Yes.
Like viddied would be seen. I think Slooshy.
Yeah, and Slooshy is heard.
Yeah.
Because he slooshied a lot of, like, he slooshied the record when he got home from the record store.
That would make sense.
Those are my words. Do you have any more?
Yeah, I do. Glazies.
Glazzies, yeah, that's one I was going to put down. Those are eyes.
Eyes, yeah.
Yep.
Horror show, which is used a lot.
Yeah, which means good, and that's one of the examples of kind of rhyming slang where it's based on a Russian word, which I don't remember what that word is, but so there's the Russian word, and then horror show rhymes with that Russian word. So I think there's a lot of that going on where they're based on Russian words that are then converted into like a rhymed English word, which could explain gloopy and slooshy.
Right. I got millicents, which is police. Which is like militants.
Yeah, it could be.
Right. Ukadited.
What the fuck is that?
So ukadited, I think, is skedaddled or like left in a hurry. And it's just funny because the English equivalent of ukadited is equally ridiculous.
Right. I don't remember even seeing ukadited.
Somebody ukadited from the situation, like they ran away. Somebody was scared. I think it might have been. I think it might have been during their fight with that other gang. And
that reminds me of one, which was I think it was apple polylogies.
Oh yeah, apipolylogies. Yeah, instead of apologies, apipolylogies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Titsas.
Oh, that's women, isn't it?
Women, chicks, but there was another one for women too. I don't know if I got that one down. Yeah, I didn't get that one. I thought Ptitsas, I can't even say it. Ptitsas. Yeah, was chicks or women or whatever.
Yeah.
Starry.
Oh, I don't think I figured that one out either.
Starry, I think maybe like fancy, growing up, important, the starry houses, they're nice houses.
Okay, sure.
One of the policemen was starry. He was
Yeah.
Cutter.
That's money, yeah.
Money, dineros, yeah.
Pretty Polly, I think, is money as well.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of different things that were money. Rookers, I thought was breasts.
Maybe. I don't remember that word.
Audinaki.
I remember seeing that one. I don't remember the context of it. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it just means like me, my own, right? Like I went on my Audinaki. I went on my own.
Okay, sure.
I had another word here, but I couldn't figure it out. Veshk.
Yeah, that's another one where I remember seeing it, but I don't remember the context, so.
And smek was like chuckle, I think.
Okay,
had a smek, had a laugh. Oh no, I was wrong about rookers. Rookers wasn't breast. I figured out rookers in the last chapter. It was hands. Rookers was hands. And then I had I
get those mixed up sometimes too. Hands and breasts.
Hands and breasts, they're so similar.
It does make handshaking awkward sometimes.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Todd. But and that was all the words that I think I had kind of figured out. There was this one sentence that was just so ridiculous. Slooshying this fearsome shoom of the Rosvan.
Yeah.
I mean, we figured out slooshy, but other than that, I've got nothing else. So, I mean, we covered a lot of words there, but that was only a small fraction of the words that are in this book.
Some of these sentences sound like things from like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Slooshying this hoopy frood over here.
Hoopy frood, yeah. Fort Prefect was a real hoopy frood who always knows where his towel is.
But let's slooshy that hoopy frood.
Let's slooshy that hoopy. Have you viddied that hoopy frood?
Have you viddied that hoopy fruit? Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about this story.
Mm-hmm.
We open at the Korova Milk Bar with Alex, Dim, Georgie, and Pete. Those are his droogies. With a recurring question.
Droogs.
Sorry, droogs.
Sorry. I don't mean to be like the made-up word police, but...
No, I should get it right. I was extra slangifying it.
Droogies is...
Yeah. With a recurring question, what's it going to be then, eh? That question pops up 4 or 5 times over this chapter. I think, it's in the context of these guys trying to plan their evening as they sit here and drink their milk that's fortified with drugs and stimulants and who knows what else. And it's interesting to think about that. Like, you don't go to it's not a bar with liquor. It's milk. You're drinking milk, but with extra additives in it that are, fuck up your brain. Why don't we have milk bars in 2021?
I don't know. Open one. Open a milk bar in a pot shop.
There we go. Yeah. Marijuana is legal here in Canada. We could do like marijuana infused milk products. I don't think marijuana is good for a good horror show evening, though.
No, it would be kind of the opposite. But, I found the milk bar interesting because I thought at first that this made sense because I just remembered Alex was young from the movie. Mm-hmm. I don't think that really becomes apparent until a little later on in the first part of this book. But I thought, oh yeah, well he's drinking milk because he's a kid, right?
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
But then they wind up in a bar anyway at some point. So why they choose the milk over the alcohol?
Well, I think it's the milk is stimulants, right?
Yeah,
There's stimulants in the milk, so that gets you jacked up, and then you go to the bar at the end of your horror show and mellow out with the alcohol, right?
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Let's take some PCP. Go fuck shit up.
Right.
then we'll chill with a little Jack and Coke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cocktail.
Okay.
That's how I spend my evenings. Got to start with milk and stimulants. Woohoo! So yeah, they finish up their milk. They head out on their adventures, and I think the first guy they encounter is a guy coming from the library. And in much the same way,
and fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
Bullies have been messing with nerds with books in their hands for decades. Here comes Alex and harassing this guy, like ripping his book from his hands and
tearing the pages out. They grabbed all his books.
Well, accusing him of having pornography in these books, which is like, I don't know, they were like architectural books or something. Rip all the pages out, like they fucking tear his pants down and give him a rough time.
And that was probably the best thing they did with their time.
Right? Well, I mean, I would argue that like
the
milk drinking was relatively peaceful, so maybe if they just stayed there. This chapter, in fact, I think is the one I struggled the most with because this is the first your first introduction to the language. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of these words, I did not have like the context clues are other words in this language. Right. So until you start figuring out what these words mean, you can't figure out what other words around them mean.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this was, I missed out, like at least the first half of this chapter, which is about talking about kind of what's going on in the milk bar. That shit's just over my head. I didn't catch any of it, really.
I just, honestly, like, I just kept remembering the movie, which I think is maybe the best way to read this book is to watch the movie first.
And you know what? I think this is, I do feel like, because of the language and how impenetrable it is, I had this thought in my head that like, this is one of those books that guys, or I shouldn't say guys, people who want to seem smart have on their bookshelf, but they just never read it because it's so impenetrable. But you can just watch the movie and kind of get all the necessary talking points about the book so you can at least talk about it like you've read it.
Okay. Well, I guess that's true because I might be remembering this differently. And when we get to the movie, I might change my tune on this. But it does feel like the movie followed this quite closely. There was a couple of large differences.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think it was up to this point very, very to the word almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the monologues from the film are taken word for word from the book. I mean, obviously,
but
it's not taking...
But at least the movie has visual cues to help you can tell with the language, right? So it's like, my Gulliver hurt and he holds his head or whatever, I think he might have held his stomach in the movie. I think they might have got that one wrong.
I think so too.
They might have got that one wrong.
Me. That's why I was confused about it. So yeah, after he messes up the guy with the books, they head off to they head to a store to rob the place.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Standard night out.
Standard night out. At one point, I think they have I think it was a woman who was working there, and she's down on the floor like cowering, and he kind of like gets this idea about like he gets kind of turned on. He wants to give her the old rape. But then is like, no, we'll save that for later in the evening because it's early. You don't want to peak too early.
My God, yeah,
right.
Yeah, this kid is he's a psychopath.
Yeah,
yeah, oh yeah, he's like all kinds of fucked up. Yeah, okay, so yeah, that was the first bit of ultra violence when he saw, and he talks a lot about like when he sees the blood and he gets all excited, he gets the tinglies and things like that, or tingy winglies or whatever he called it.
Right.
See, it's like, a lot of times it sounds like a kid making up words, you know.
It does sound like that too. That's a good point. Yeah.
Okay, so after the robbery, then they go to the bar, right? Yeah. Okay.
And I think they buy a bunch of food, they buy a bunch of drinks. And I think also they buy some things for the other patrons there so that when the cops come in looking to see who might have been involved in the robbery, the other patrons give them like an alibi. Oh, they've been here all night.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. They went to the bar first, then they went and robbed, then they came back to the bar. And then the cops
That's right.
Yeah, that's what happened. And yeah, they were ordering drinks and food for like these old ptitzas.
And then they ran out of money and had to get more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 2, they head out from the bar to get up to more shenanigans, and they bump into a drunk on the street who is singing a song. And
they decide to rough that guy up too.
He's not a big fan.
Because fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's not a fan of kids these days.
Right.
He's like, society is terrible. You kids are terrible. And so they kick the shit out of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I don't care if you kill me, I'll be happy. If you don't kill me, then I won't be dead. And I guess that's okay too.
But I think he basically was like, if you kill me, then I won't have to live in a world with you assholes in it. Is basically
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he wasn't terribly concerned about the assault on him. Then they head off and bump into Billy Boy and his crew of droogs.
Fuck that guy.
As I said earlier, on the verge of raping a 10-year-old girl.
Right. Yeah. No. Definitely. Fuck that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
so there's
a gang fight.
Yeah, there's a bit of a sequence here of a gang fight. Alex and his droogs rough him up, fuck him around. One guy gets clobbered and knocked out. I think it's Dim. Dim's got a chain with him that he...
Right, should we list the droogs in Alex's little gang here?
Well, I think I mentioned them at the beginning. It's Dim... Paul? No.
Georgie. Pete?
Dim, Georgie, and Pete, yeah.
Dim, Georgie, Pete, and Alex, yeah.
Dim is kind of the dumb one. Georgie, I think, is the one that kind of, we'll find out later, is kind of maybe wanting to climb up the ranks and oust Alex, maybe. And Pete just kind of doesn't want to rock the boat.
Right.
Is how I would describe them.
Pete is Sweden.
Pete is Sweden?
Yes.
Oh, Sweden. Pete is Sweetums.
Pete's my Sweetums.
So they fuck up Billy Boy's crew, and then they grab a car and head out of the city to find a place to break into and have some more fun. It's more horror show. Horror show, ultraviolence. So yeah, they find this house in the middle of nowhere, and they have this little kind of routine they do where Alex goes up to the door, pretends that one of his friends has been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Can he come in and use the phone? And the lady's like, oh, I don't know if I should let you do that. And then he's like, oh, well, he's actually not that bad. Maybe just a glass of water would help him, get right in the head. And so she turns around and she's got the door open, but it's got like a chain on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she turns around to go and ask her husband about this, he's like, aha, she didn't close the door like she should have. And they kick the door in. The four of them head into the house, and they have a little bit more ultraviolence.
And they beat up the author of the book that we're currently reading.
Well, okay, so I don't think he's the author of the book we're reading. He is, though, the author of a book called A Clockwork Orange, which does seem to be about free will, which I will admit I found a little bit, Sherry, let me rephrase that, a lot on the nose. Can't say I care for that. Kind of.
But maybe
anyway.
that was the comedy. Like it might have just been a joke.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, he beats the crap out of the other. Rapes his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, we get a pretty detailed description of like whose turn it is raping the wife and who is the one holding her down. Which is exactly as horrific as it sounds.
But I was happy that not happy. I was glad.
Okay, I was waiting to see how that sentence was going to end.
Cut that. No, he didn't really get into detail. Because I kind of knew it was coming, and I from the movie I knew it was, and then the foreshadowing with the break-in, and maybe later, right? I was glad that he didn't go into great detail about the act. He did go he did go into detail about who was where.
I mean, maybe he did, and we just didn't understand the words he used.
Maybe. But there was a couple of times in this first part where I was getting nervous because wasn't looking forward to reading what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of glazed over it.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that happened.
He glazed over the act, but it was pretty detailed as far as first it was me and
right.
Georgie held her down, and then we reversed and I was holding her down, and then it was Georgie, and
right. Yeah.
We were pinning it was
intense. It was intense enough. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Which just seems crazy that this is number 80 on the most banned books. And like other books that just maybe tackle religion in a different way, or like, nah, we're going to get rid of those ones. Clockwork Orange, rape. Yeah. No, bring it
on. Fair. But I think to consider is I think a lot of the banned books, or the books that have been challenged, are books that come up as part of a curriculum.
Okay. So this book was never really part of a curriculum.
I'm not going to say it's never been, but I can definitely see The Handmaid's Tale and definitely I Am Jazz coming up in school curriculums way more often.
Yes, definitely. I would hope so.
If anyone is teaching A Clockwork Orange in a classroom, it's universities, right?
Right.
Where there's far, far, far less, if any, attempts to ban material, because at that point, you're an adult, you're a grown up. You can read about viddying rape or slushing a rape or whatever was happening here. Okay. Next chapter 3. They're done with these guys. They head out. Time to head back to town. They abandon their car out here in the middle of nowhere and ride the train back to town.
Right. I guess we didn't really mention the fact that they stole a car. Pretty low on the totem pole as far as things that they have done that night. But yeah, they stole a car.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to glaze over that because it was like, that's almost like they're being good citizens.
Yeah, so they abandoned their car in the lake. They drove it into a lake, I believe, right?
Right, yes, they drove it into a lake.
Because they were running out of gas. They're like, fuck this thing.
Right. Yeah. Why leave it in a state where the owners could get it back and at least be glad they got it back? Like, let's just fuck this thing over as much as we can. And then, take the train back to town, where they return to the milk bar. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe to get some downer milk, maybe to end the evening off. There's an interesting point here where during a break between songs being played at the milk bar, this woman starts to sing something. Mm-hmm. And it's a song that Alex recognizes. And I think it's kind of the first moment we have of learning that Alex has a thing for music. And while she's singing, Dim, I think it's Dim, starts to make fun of her.
I think he was like, oh, come over here, and like catcalling her, like, hey, baby.
Yeah.
And then Alex like pops him, and he's like, don't be disrespectful.
Yeah, exactly. And then Alex heads home for the night, sort of says, hey, we'll meet you guys here tomorrow, same time, same bat channel. And then Alex heads home where he slooshies some more music, and we
find out that this is where we find out that he's like, really trained his parents to just go along with whatever he wants, because he's listening to music late at night, loud. He's got speakers in every fucking corner of his room.
Right, and they've got like earplugs in or whatever.
They got earplugs, and they've taken sleeping pills because they just know that little Alex likes his music, and if they try to stop him, he's gonna he's a brat. He's a fucking anyway.
Well, we get a sense of that, I think, in the next chapter too, where when he talks with his parents, we kind of get the information that he has been caught for certain misdeeds before. He's had problems with the law, and he has them, I think, semi-convinced, but also I think they semi have their heads in the sand.
Right.
That he's cleaned up his act. He's going out at night to work.
Yeah.
And when anyway, we'll get to that.
And we also meet JJ Bittenbinder, or whatever the fuck his name was.
I was going to say, I didn't bother jotting his name down, and apparently you didn't either, because he just made up his name there. But
well, no, JJ Bitten, that's a John Mulaney bit. It's freaking hilarious. Okay. If you haven't heard it, right, check it out. But PR something.
Yeah.
PR douche and binder.
HR puff and stuff.
What, butts and stuff?
HR puff and stuff.
Puff and stuff.
It's a kids program from the 70s.
Oh.
I'm you're too young for that. So Alex wakes up and is like, I don't fucking want to go to school. I'm tired. I was out too late causing chaos, so I'm not going to school today. So he tells his mom he's got a pain in the Gulliver and decides to stay home. His mom's like, okay, I'll leave your breakfast in the oven. And
his parents just seem so sweet.
They do.
So they sweet.
Do. So Alex dozes off, has a dream where he runs into an older Georgian dim who kind of assault him. And then when he wakes up, he's visited by his counselor, HR Puffinstuff.
Well, I think the dream was like about Georgie trying to like dominate the group, and Dim being Georgie's right-hand man, right? And administering Georgie's punishment on Alex with his chain. And he has this thing about like, but I know that all dreams are opposite of what reality is. So that means that I'm going to be the leader, and Dim's going to bring out my punishment on everybody. And I'm not going to be the one that's all bloody. It's going to be them.
Spoiler alert, I guess, but yeah. I think things go a little differently.
They go a little differently, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, his counselor shows up, knocking on the door.
I don't think it's his counselor. It's like his
parole officer,
his probation officer. Yeah.
I don't know. I put counselor down on my notes just because that seems like close, but
no. JJ Bittenbinder is not the name of a counselor.
Neither is HR Puff and stuff, but so Alex makes some chai tea, which I thought was an interesting choice for this world, as everyone's drinking chai.
Right, TT. Yeah.
And so the counselor just shows up as checking in. I heard you weren't in school. I bumped into your mom. She said you weren't feeling well. You're not in school. Just checking up to see like how you're doing, and kind of know you're not being your true self. And it's sort of like a warning that like a reminder that this is your last chance to clean up your act, because if you fuck up again, like you're going to be treated as an adult, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're on the verge of that. And Alex is pretty much like, yeah, whatevs. I'm not worried.
Spoiler alert, he should be.
Spoiler alert, he should be. He dismisses HR Brickenbottom.
Okay, I'm finding his name because this is getting ridiculous. Okay, you keep talking, I'm going to find this guy's name.
He finds PF Double Trump. And,
no, come on.
Heads off to the record store.
Right, and then
which is fun because it's like it's the future, but there's records.
To be fair, this was written in 1960. I don't think that he would have been like, I'm not going to put CDs in this book. I'm going to put records in this book. He didn't know that there was going to be a thing like CDs.
No, exactly. Like in 1962, when you're looking ahead, I don't think there was any other
You're looking at records, you're like, this is so amazing. They're never going to change this.
They're never going to change this, right? Having no idea that 8 tracks were just around the corner.
This is so futuristic. You just have this flat disc of plastic and it makes music. It's fucking fantastic. This will last for eons.
So he gets a new Beethoven record.
Right.
And he also bumps into some more 10-year-old girls because they're everywhere and they are, a 15-year-old's perfect sexual conquest.
See, now, and then that was a shock because I might be remembering this wrong, but I think in the movie it was an older woman in the record store. It was the one. It was the one that was singing. No, did I not remember this movie correctly? Then I thought he ran into the same woman that was singing at the milk bar.
No,
we'll have to come back.
No, he runs into. It's two women in the. It's two women in the record store again.
That's
the thing with the movie is like everyone. I don't think they state ages is the thing in the movie, and everyone looks a little bit older. Like to me, like Malcolm McDowell was like in his 20s, but I think he's supposed to be playing like 18. But when I watched it, it felt like sort of like these weren't. It didn't feel like teenagers. Like it felt like he was in his 20s and the girls were in his 20s. And that's probably not what the movie was meant to portray, but that was how it felt to me. But even so, I think even if, as far as what it was trying to portray, I would say like, Alex was probably 18 in the movie and the girls would have been like maybe 16.
Right.
Not 10.
Yeah. That was hard to take. That was one of the parts in the book where we were getting like things were escalating and I was anxious to read. Like it was it was very unnerving. Yeah.
Not to talk too much about the film, but another one of the things that they do change in this scene is that all of the sex between him and the girls he picks up in the record store is consensual.
Yeah.
In the film, whereas in the book, it's basically he brings them over to his place. He plays their records that they bought, and he starts filling them up on liquor. And when they're kind of drunk, he starts fucking them. And sort of like midway through the fucking, they're like, oh no, that we don't want to do this. And he's like, oh, well, whatever. I'm continuing on. So, it turns into rape, which is never a fun thing to read about. But we're only like, 4 chapters in and we've already had our
4
second rape.
Well, the first one with the other group of Drews.
Billy Boy, yeah.
And then the mention of it with the...
Oh, and then third rape, yeah, because there's the mention of it at the beginning, yeah, so 3.5. Yeah, we got to remember the author's wife, too. I forgot about the author's wife.
Almost feels ridiculous to bounce back to this now, but PR deltoid.
Right.
Yeah. So just think of the deltoid muscle.
Right, I was just thinking about that. So after his heavy afternoon of raping, Alex nods off again, sleeps until about 7:30, gets up. I think he's got dinner waiting for him from his mom. This is where he has that bit of interaction with his dad about how he's been out helping old ladies across the street and getting paid. And just to prove it,
he gives him a bit of money.
Yeah, he slaps down all the money he has left over from the night before, which
ill-gotten
definitely
gains.
Not come from helping old ladies across the street. But he's like, here, Dad. I don't remember what he told his dad to buy with it.
He's buy Mom some scotch, the same scotch that he stole from their cabinet to get the...
to liquor up the ladies. Yeah. I shouldn't call them ladies. They're 10-year-olds. He heads out for an evening with the Droogs, and to his surprise, finds them waiting there for him instead of at the milk bar. They said they were there, I guess, because he was running late. But I think it's also because... I feel like it's because Georgie kind of wanted to get him a little bit off balance, because this is where Georgie's going to sort of make his move a little bit on Alex to say, like, not really digging the way things are going. I want things to be a little bit more democratic. You got to stop pushing Dim around so much, because Alex is a bit of a dick to Dim. Dick to Dim. That's an interesting phrasing.
That almost sounds like a word in the book. And I hit him and his dick to him.
Addicted to him. And so it sort of becomes okay. Alex kind of goes along with this initially. Oh, something else that Georgie wants actually is he's been talking to this other guy. I'm getting the sense that he's like a fence, and he wants to start trying to do bigger scores than just like fucking up nerds with library books and beating up bums. And he wants to he's got dreams, man. He wants to be something. He wants to be a real criminal. And so,
oh my God. Do you really just want to be a petty criminal your whole life?
No, exactly. Yeah. You gotta dream for something, man. Gotta have goals. And so Alex kind of goes along with this briefly. And then at a certain point, I think he gets inspired by a car that drives by playing Beethoven. He decides, no, it's time to like assert my dominance here. And it gets into a bit of a trial by combat, first attacking Dim, and then sort of taking Dim out with a blade, and then he fights Georgie. And then after beating Georgie, he's like gonna turn on Pete, and Pete's like,
I'm good.
Yeah. I want none of this.
Well, I guess he like stabs or cuts Pete, right? Or Georgie. Then
I remember he slices Dim's hand or something.
Yeah, I think he stabs Dim in the wrist.
Right, yeah. But now that he's like reclaimed his place as the leader of the group, he now wants to hear about Georgie's big score, which is basically robbing this supposedly like rich lady out of town. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they're going to do in the next chapter, which I guess is chapter 6. Yeah. Do they steal another car? I don't remember how they get out there. I assume it's stealing another car.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah. So they headed to town again with the destination at this one's house. And when they get there, they try kind of a similar trick that they did at the beginning to get into the writer's house with the whole like, oh, my dude is hurt and everything else.
I think it was the same trick. And she's like, I'll shoot you.
Yeah. He's like, fuck off. I'm too crafty for you guys. And so Alex ends up breaking into her place through an open window on like the second floor. Dim boosts him up through the window. He crawls through the window into her house.
Well, he breaks the window. Gets in the house.
Does he break it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It won't open, so he just breaks it.
Right. So he gets in and he's like roaming around looking for the woman. He ends up kind of discovering that she's got like fucking dozens of cats.
Which he kind of like thought that she did when they were out. He's like, I just kind of imagined this woman with cats. And then she's got like dozens of cats. Yeah. All different ages, all different colors. He went into great detail about the amount and type of and age of cats.
Yeah.
If you want to learn more about cats, read A Clockwork Orange.
Subtitle, a book about cats. And also free will. So as he tries to approach the woman, or get further into the house, he like gets distracted. She's got a bust of Beethoven, and because of his sort of love for Beethoven, like he stops for a second. He's struck by that, and then like he starts like stumbling over the saucers of milk that the cats have, and it kind of alerts the woman to the fact that he's in there. Meanwhile, he's being attacked by these cats, and she's trying to fight him off, and like it's chaos.
He knocks her over. She trips him. She's clawing at his face. She tells the cats to get him, and the cats listen.
Right.
And then he clocks her on the head with the bust of Beethoven.
Yeah. And at that point, he's pretty much, fuck all this shit. I'm getting out of here. He tries to leave by the door, and when he opens the door, there is Dim waiting for him to slap him in the old glazzies with his chain. And now Alex is blinded as sirens wail in the distance.
And he realizes that the woman was on the phone when like he was like, "Where is she?" Because
he broke the window. He was calling the police.
Yeah, she was calling the police.
Meanwhile, Dim and Pete and Georgie take off, leaving Alex to take the fall for their shenanigans that day.
Because fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. This is what happens when you try to like maintain order by
stabbing your friends. Don't stab your friends. They will backstab you.
You can only stab your friends so long before they get tired of it. So yeah, Alex ends up taken into police custody. And then we move on to chapter 7.
Yeah, this was the chapter I read about 5 minutes before we started the podcast.
So he's brought to the police station, where of course he gets beaten by the police.
Right, and they all know, but all the police know him. Like on the way to the police station,
well,
they're
yeah,
like,
exactly.
"Hey, we finally got Alex." He's like, "How do you know me?"
Yeah, like,
and then he kind of has a
digging
flashback
around
to his PR Bittenbinder, PR Deltoid. So he kind of has a flashback to his conversation, and he's like, "Oh, like maybe they knew what I was doing after all."
Yeah,
and they totally did. So.
Well, yeah, like they've clearly been trying to get him for a while. Like the day before, after he'd robbed the store, and like the police showed up and were like, "Hey, you guys don't happen to know anything about that?" Like they fucking knew he did it.
Yeah,
they knew he did it. So he gets beat up by the guards or the police officers. HR Puff and stuff visits.
Spits in his face.
Mr. Deltoid shows up, and yeah, before that, the police are like, "Hey." Actually, even before that, he's like, basically like, "They got you. Everything I predicted was going to happen happened. You're kind of a disappointment. Sorry this shit went down that way." Then the police are like, "Hey, you want to take a swing at him?" And instead he just spits on Alex's face.
Which is so much worse.
Yeah, I know. It shows it's like contempt is worse than anger, right? Mm-hmm. To me, I think. And the face bit is just contempt.
I'm not mad at
it's
you.
like,
I'm just disappointed.
Disappointed.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alex is beat up. Alex gets spat on. The guards have him confess to everything. He confesses to everything, but also is like, I totally wasn't alone. I totally had my 4 friends. So, like, on top of everything else.
Well, and this is where Alex really turns into this weasel. Like when PR Deltoid spits in his face, he's like, thank you so much. Like, I deserve that. Thank you. And he's like, just wants to.
He was like that with the police too when they first arrested him, right? Like,
yeah.
Because he's scared.
Well, he is a kid, right?
And that's the thing. Like, I thought this is something I thought was really interesting. Like the very end of the chapter, which is the very end of part 1, is when we find out that Alex is 15.
Yeah,
and I think that's definitely an intentional choice on the part of Anthony Burgess. To like go through all of this horrifying stuff that he's done and then go, oh, by the way, he was only 15 and be like, so holy fuck, a 15-year-old did all of this. But it also kind of gives you that idea of like how terrified he would be in that place, in that, and realizing, and in fact, let's just take a little bit further to the end of the chapter. After he makes his confession, he's sent off to his cell where he has to fight off another couple of prisoners who want to rape him. Manages to fall asleep for a little bit. When he wakes up, though, he's then taken to an office where he learns that the old woman he assaulted the night before has died.
I think he's in court at that point. He's speaking to the judge.
I didn't get that sense, but that could be true. Either way, though, like. He's just found out that, like, whatever happens to him in the court of law, it's going to be serious. Like, murder is so much more of an issue. Let me rephrase that. Like, obviously, if he was arrested for, like, breaking and entering an assault, that would be bad enough. But now, murder, he's looking at a murder charge. But, and he's 15 years old, and it's terrifying.
But I mean, I found it hard to feel bad for him because nothing that he experienced under police custody was different than what he did to other people. In the course of this first
exactly.
Like, it was really, like you say, like you understand the fear, but really at that point there was no sympathy. Yeah.
But I don't
know if the author was trying to instill sympathy or not. I don't think he was. I think he was trying. Sympathy. It almost seemed like he was trying to you balance the scales, you know? It's like we learned all about these things that Alex did, and then he kind of has everything happen to him all in one night, kind of same things. I think he did get raped. If I read it properly, I think that he tried to fight them off, and I don't think he quite did.
That could be. I could have missed that in the...
But I don't remember in the movie if he did or not. We'll have to come back to that, I guess.
I don't remember a lot around his arrest. Like, I remember all of the crimes, and I remember him going to prison. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember a lot. Although I do remember, actually, now that I think about it, I do remember RM trapezoid, I was going to say.
Oh, that's the muscle I was confusing. I was like, is this the deltoid? No, those are the trapezoids. Where's the...
I do remember him showing up and maybe even spitting on him.
Right.
In the movie, but I don't remember a lot about the arrest. What was I saying, though? What were we talking about? I don't know if it's about to be, like, trying to create sympathy, but I do feel like one thing that I think just about every teenager experiences is a moment where in sort of finding their autonomy and maybe even lashing out at, like, the world or the system or whatever, they go too far. Not obviously, bash an old cat lady's head in, mm-hmm. but they just go too far and they're like, oh, fuck. And there's a fear that comes from that. And it's like, maybe it's saying fuck to your parents for the first time when you're 15 and now you're grounded or whatever. And there is that moment of fear because it's being on that line between being a child and being an adult, and you're in trying to be an adult, you've taken a step too far and you almost revert back to being a child again. Does that make sense?
Kinda.
And I do feel like that's a little bit about what was going on with Alex there is realizing that.
I mean, on an extreme end of the scale, for sure. Right.
Right.
I mean, saying fuck to your parents and
Oh yeah, no. I'm not saying that like.
I totally understand. Yeah,
but that moment of him when he's cowering and mm-hmm. like you said when Deltoid spits on him and he's like, oh thank you, I deserve that, thank mm-hmm. you. It is that regressive instinct of trying to be a child again and I think step back from the responsibility of what he's done and be like,
right.
He's trying to. Yeah, he's trying to say, like, I get it, I was wrong, and it's too late for that to make a difference. You just realize that.
He hasn't had, like, it doesn't sound like he's really had much discipline at all to that point. And even after that, like, he kind of, like, feels like he got out of that when he wakes up and he's going to go see the court, and he's like, wow, this is going to be a breeze, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm 15, ain't nothing going to happen to me, and then he realizes that the woman died, and then I think reality really sets in. He's like, oh, like, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think he was, even when he began talking, and I think it was a court, maybe it was an office, but whoever he's talking to, when he begins talking to them, he is quite arrogant still at that point.
Yeah.
And then, the realization that she didn't make it. And that's when, that's the end of the chapter, basically. That's the end of the
Pretty much, yeah. And actually, something I meant to talk about at the beginning, speaking of the end of the part, is that this book is very, I think, according to the author, very purposefully structured. Mm-hmm. It is 3 parts, 7 chapters in each part, totaling 21 chapters, 21 being the age of majority in, I think, England is where he was living at the time they wrote this. Mm-hmm. And the idea being 21 being like that at that age of adulthood, that age of finally being like responsible for yourself. And so it was the structure was a conscious choice in the way he wrote the book, in much the same way that the structure in The Handmaid's Tale was very conscious. And so I think when we first talked about doing this book and this film, we were going to do 2 parts on the book because roughly we try to do about 100 pages per episode. But looking at the structure of the book, we've decided that like breaking it up into like doing part 1, then part 2, then part 3 makes way more sense. because each part is its own thing, right? So part 1 was in fact around 100 pages, but I think
80,
I think part 2 is more like 60.
Okay,
I think, and then part 3 I think is even shorter. But I could be wrong. But either way, though, we're doing 3 parts to the book, 4th part about the movie, and then after that we'll do a live wrap up. That brings us to the end of part 1.
Final thoughts, Todd?
Yeah, it's. I've wanted to read this book for a long time, and
now you've regretted it.
No, I know I've tried at least once before, and I've always found the language to be the thing that stopped me. It's just so hard to get into, and I didn't want to use the glossary because there wasn't one in the original book, so it felt like that went against the author's intent, that his intent was that you would gradually uncover it through context clues, and also because using a glossary would make it feel like homework, and I'm 47 years old, and I don't want to fucking do homework anymore.
That's...
and I think but the thing I was getting to is that I think if I didn't have a responsibility to finish this book for this podcast, I probably would have been like, fuck it, I'll try it again in 2022. It's like I am glad to an extent that I have the responsibility to this podcast to finally get through this book. I'm a big fan of the movie, but I'm a huge fan of Stanley Kubrick. So I am enjoying sort of seeing what the book was and what he was working from when he made the film. What are your final thoughts at the end of the part 1?
I'm shook a little bit. It was a couple parts were hard to read. A couple of the actions. It was difficult at times. It was funny at times. It was good. I did find the language a little bit difficult at first, but I got over that fairly quickly. I actually showed a quote to my girlfriend, and it was like just full of this odd vernacular, and she's like, "That sounds really stupid." And I thought about it for a second. I was like, it's actually pretty smart because if you think back to like, when was it like the cool cat language, like
oh, you like the
language that was used in the early years in the autobiography of Malcolm X, right?
Yeah, like the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you hadn't been exposed to that type of language before, you would have no idea what the hell was going on. It's just because like over the years we've had little snippets of that cool cat language. That's
an interesting comparison too, because there is that portion in the autobiography of Malcolm X where he opens a chapter, I think, with a bunch of the slang of that time. And I remembered reading it and being like, man, I'm not following half of the things he's saying.
Yeah.
And then he goes off to say like, yeah, if like that's how we talked at the time and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, if you're not immersed in the culture, you don't understand the language of that culture. And that's kind of what we're experiencing here is that like we're getting a window into a fictional culture and its language.
And, I kind of thought it was smart just for that aspect of it. But then when you brought up the idea that the author was trying to separate what was happening in the book from reality, that really clicked with me after having explained that to my girlfriend as well. So like that all kind of came together for me. So I liked having that revelation from this discussion with you. But yeah, I am enjoying it. It is just out there in so many ways. It goes in so many directions. And I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it and then watching the movie again after having this new perspective. I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. All right. Me too. That brings us to a close on this episode then. Thanks everybody for listening. You can find us on Facebook.
You can find us on Podbean.
Or you can find our podcast on whatever podcast platform you prefer. whatever podcast platform you prefer.
Whatever you viddy your
No, you got to slooshy these podcasts.
Right, yeah, so sorry, yeah. Whatever you slooshy your media through.
Whatever you slooshy your podcast through, yes, you can find us there. Assuming you're listening, you probably found us on something already. We on Facebook. Join us on Facebook to keep up to date on what we're doing. Facebook.com/bandthingshappen. You can also email us at bandthingshappen@gmail.com. We also have a Patreon. If you want to support us, it's patreon.com/blah blah blah media. That's BLAH media. That's kind of the umbrella platform for this podcast and another one I do called Half Got Conspiracies.
And I've soon to be deconstructed comedy.
Deconstructed comedy, yeah. And I've also created we now have a Buy Me a Coffee. So if you don't want to support us on a monthly platform, which you can do through Patreon, you can drop by buymeacoffee.com/blah blah blah media to do what the name suggests, buy us a copy, which might go towards a beer instead. Or
I fucking love coffee. I love coffee.
I love coffee too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it could go towards coffee or beer or maybe even server costs. Who knows? But
I do.
If you're it's
going to be beer.
It's going to be beer.
It's
all right. That'll do it for this week. We'll be back again in a week's time for our next look.
Todd!
What?
We never talked about what we're drinking.
Oh, we didn't. That's true. Even though this isn't my drinking podcast, that's a different one. But I've been really enjoying a different vodka soda product these last few days. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and it's actually got a really, really good taste. It's from Cottage Springs Beverage Company, and they've got a winter sampler pack that's got a bunch of different flavors. It's got like cranberry. What's the other one? Cranberry. Oh, that's a cranberry too. Cranberry, pomegranate, grapefruit, and one more that I can't think of right now, but they're really good. Really like them, and that is what I've been drinking tonight. How about you?
I had a nut brown ale, which they're always good. This particular one was, I think, from Persephone.
Cool.
Sorry, Spinnakers. I think I've had this before on the show. And the second one I cracked open was a Helios Golden Lager from Hoyne Brewing Company. Shout out to Vancouver Island. And I just thought we can add this to the end of the podcast. We can put it on a Patreon. We can kind of put it back in the beginning. I don't care.
I might do that. We'll see. Speaking of drinks, I did have earlier in the week, I had this fantastic blueberry vanilla ale. I can't remember where it was from, but I'm probably going to be bringing that to the next episode of Half Got Conspiracies. So listen there if you want to find out about that beer, which basically tasted like drinking a blueberry pie, which was fucking brilliant. That's it. We're done. That's it for us. We'll see you again next week for part 2 of A Clockwork Orange. Till then, you say it this time.
All right. Until next time, I am Oren Barter.
I'm Todd Sullivan.
Now go read a fucking book.